Hello, you're listening to WRKE 100.3 LPFM Salem, streaming live online at WRKE.org and on the TuneIn app, just search for WRKE. WRKE is here to offer you a distinct listening choice in the Salem, Roanoke area and beyond. On my social media profiles, you can follow me on Anakin Heidrich for Instagram and the coolest pet in town for Instagram. Facebook, Anakin Heidrich, and that is ANAKYNHEIDRICH. Again, that's ANAKYNHEIDRICH. And on YouTube, you can also find me at the coolest pet in town. Just look for the little gray kitty. I highly encourage you to send your stories of triumph, your stories of struggle to me through social media on all these, social media apps, on all Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. Just let me know, show me in the comments, and I will be more than happy. And if you even want to be interested in being a guest, email me at anakinskywalker6@gmail.com. That's ANAKYNSKY Walker, the number 6@gmail.com. Again, that's ANAKYNSKY Walker, the number 6@gmail.com. Anyways, I also do encourage y'all to spread the word about this show. I would love to do it because I got some great news for y'all. I mean, I've really got quite a surprise to share. Anyways, if you're interested in ever co-hosting for an episode or whatnot, again, comment, let me know, and I will try to make that reality for you. I want to thank my viewers for everything, and I've heard many positive reactions to this show, many of which have been nice, and this is ultimately what I like doing this show for. It's just the idea of simply trying to help people detoxify and better their lives. And I also wanted to thank my guest host, Justin Farmer, from the last episode. He was absolutely a great sport, and I've definitely learned quite a bit from him about his struggle. He just made a new commercial for Scratch Biscuit on Facebook, so I highly recommend you check it out. It is quite a yodel. Anyways, so I have some good news. Not too long ago, in November-ish or December, in the middle of December, when I came back home, worked so hard to reach the motivational speaker Les Brown, whom inspired this series. He and someone else on the behalf of his office reached out to me and offered me a $25 ticket to his discipline seminar. Absolutely phenomenal, from discipline to destiny. And he spoke with several other motivational speakers here at this program down in Atlanta, Georgia. It's already passed on February 1st, but he offered me from the typical $500 ticket to what was now a $25 ticket. And it was absolutely worth it when I tell you this. Anyways, so this was a program. It's called From Discipline to Destiny, and not only did it include him, but it also included Uda Schmidt, Trina Richardson, Sakia Holman, Sita Ramos, Michelle Foster, Angela Scott, Lorenzo Ray Phyllis, Fabio Bentoncourt, Enzo Paulo, one of his very students in his Speaking with Power course, and Sean Huber. Let me tell you something. When I said it was a ball, it was absolutely a ball. And he's not one of those people where just because you're VIP means you can't shake his hand or do something around him or be around him. He is just truly down to earth. He doesn't care who you are. He will shake your hand. He will talk to you if you give him the chance. And that is actually exactly what happened. I spoke to him myself. We shook each other's hands, thanked him, and we shot smiles back at each other. It was, I tell you, it was so empowering and so exciting that my shoulders were hurting. I felt like the kids who got the golden ticket and like Willy Wonka. It was, it felt like knocking off something off the bucket list, you know, to meet the idea of being able to meet one of your idols, one that was truly down to earth and that truly had to work hard to get to where they're at right now. Anyways, during that time, I found some neat quotes, if you don't mind me sharing. Sean Huber down there, he called himself the mental mechanic. And one of the things he said was that what makes things different is what you do, not the potential you have. So pretty much what he's getting at here is it's more action. You have to act. It's like young people say, where you don't talk the talk, but you walk the walk. Basically, you can't spend your whole time talking about your ideas. You have to actually work them and put them into action. That's what truly makes the difference. Sure, talking about it all the time puts inspiration, but inspiration does nothing if there's no action. He also says, are things happening to you or for you? So in this case, are you spending your life blaming other people for your circumstances or for your life decisions? I mean, are you seeing all these things happening to you as obstacles and limits and whatnot, or are you seeing these as opportunities to break through and become something more than what you are doing now? I mean, whether it be as a student, as an employee or employer, let's say you get fired from your job. You weren't fired from that job. You were discharged so you could finally start working on what you needed to work on. It was all blessings in disguise. They say, God creates these brilliant opportunities and challenges is brilliantly disguised as problems. And what he says is, you'll look back on the struggles and say it was worth it. This I definitely agree on. I've had my fair share of struggles, especially over the last few months, and honestly, I wouldn't feel any other way. I no longer feel guilty about feeling the way I felt about the past. I've let that go. You have to get to a point where you have to learn that certain things just are not your burden to carry anymore. I mean, one little legend that I once read back in December, I absolutely loved it. It was a Cherokee legend. It's called The Tale of Two Wolves. And here it says, an old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is stronger. Envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, pity, guilty, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued, the other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you, and inside that her person, inside the other person too. The grandson thought about it for a moment and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? The old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed. Being of Native American ancestry, I definitely could get with this one. I loved it. Absolutely. And I love it. It's true. We all have, it's like we both constantly have two battles of good and bad, and while that might seem a little bit kindergarten-ish vocabulary, there's really no easier way to put it. You are what you feed yourself, and it's not that you are what you're physically eating, it's that you are what you are choosing to feed into. If you're going to choose to feed into negativity, you will become negative. You choose to feed into positivity, you will become positive. Believe in that saying when they say birds of a feather will in fact flock together. And another thing I've heard from this discipline seminar from Les Brown, something that Sita Ramos said absolutely stuck to me. She said, if you don't remember this, try and remember everything else. Or if you can't remember anything else, try and remember this. You got to stop breaking promises to yourself. There is only one you'll get to be with you for the rest of your life. And, if you allow life to control you, you will be out of control. Seasons change, and so should you. And then another one, Michelle Foster, who runs a human AI program, she said, easy feels good, comfort feels safe, but comfort can also confine growth. Again, it's kind of the idea of the comfort zone, step out of the comfort zone, and that's where the action will happen. The growth, having growth is, the idea of equaling the unknown. Status quo, sticking to the status quo is sticking to control. So, you want to avoid the status quo like the plague. You gotta be so hungry to that point where it puts you in a different zone to where you refuse to accept the status quo. The world is looking for people today who are refusing to leave things just as they are. For the people who realize that they are greater and much more than their circumstances, that there is much more out there in store for them, that they don't have to be a volunteer victim or live the rest of their lives that victim mentality of he did me wrong, she did me wrong, that professor did me wrong, that boss did me wrong, my mama did me wrong, my daddy did me wrong, and it isn't my fault this happened, it isn't your fault that happened. There's no blaming going on. Once you learn to avoid the status quo, and once you learn to avoid that, like the plague especially, it'll all work out, and you will no longer feel like you have to be a victim of your circumstances. They say that those who don't like their circumstances will create their own circumstances. Another one I really, really liked from this program, they say, and I can't remember exactly which speaker said it, they said you can't say message without mess. Mess is in the word. It's smart because you can't deliver the message if there was never a mess or a struggle you had to endure to be able to deliver that message authentically. Because if you want to deliver the message, you also got to be the message. It is ever more vitally important to practice what you preach, especially with what you see nowadays. When you hear constantly on the news about liars and people who never stuck to their words, or actors and actresses who played loving characters on screen and then behind the screens, you find out they're rather nasty people. So they don't really seem capable of delivering the message that they want to be preaching. So you can't say a message with that mess, and you kind of got to mean it. Because, how are you going to spell it? You're going to spell it as massage or message. You pick and choose. Another one I really like, don't wait for the perfect time. Because, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, it will never come. This one, flawless. I kept spending so much time, especially recently. And here's the thing, you can't deliver a message until you've lived that message, or you can't talk. It's harder to lecture and talk on something that you never went through. And in this case, I always was constantly waiting for the perfect time, and I had to eventually come to grips in the fact that I'd rather work in uncomfortable circumstances than never be able to have the opportunity to work towards something important at all. And again, don't wait for the perfect time, because it'll never come, trust me. Start before you're ready. That was the other big one, and that one was spoken by Les himself. This is how I've been with my projects, and it is paying off. I've started my film projects before I was even ready, before I even knew how to write a script, before I even had a cast, before I was even telling other people about this idea, and in spite of the cruel comments and being called crazy by the masses, it all works out. So I encourage you, start before you're ready. You never know what it might lead to, and if you starting before you're ready has many of its benefits, and one of which is the idea that you'll, what do you want to say? How do I want to phrase this? Starting before you're ready will give you the opportunity to learn things that you wouldn't have been able to know if you had started after. Absolutely beautiful. So I encourage you, whatever you're doing, even if you don't know it yet, you start before you're ready. It's never too early. One other I like from Trainer Robinson at this program, she said, your adulthood doesn't have to mirror your childhood. And this could be being in poverty or dealing with narcissistic family members. Just because you grew up in an environment of poverty doesn't mean you have to live the rest of your life in poverty. Just because you grew up in a narcissistic household doesn't mean you have to spend the rest of your life being the narcissist or living under a narcissistic spouse. Just because you've spent your childhood homeless doesn't mean you have to live the rest of your life homeless. At a certain point, it's your choice. Our parents create us, our parents bring us out into this world, but it is ultimately our decision to decide how we become. And the other one I really, really liked is Enzo Palo, who is under Les Brown's arm, or is under his wing, per se. He says, live life anyway. In spite of everything, live. You just gotta keep pushing, gotta keep swimming. I really, really believe, if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. And if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. It is so easy to be negative today because we've had the mindset of a negative world where everybody is constantly absorbing the negative narrative they've been given. We've lived in such a negative world where it feels like there's always going to be some head in our voice saying there's no use trying to make a difference, and there's no need, it's out of control, and there's nothing that can be done, and this and that and the other. And I feel like just simply because the world has become such a negative place that it's like, I swear, almost everybody around me talks negative, acts negative, thinks negatively, has no sense of hope, has no sense of positivity. Let me tell you something, you can't have any future, or you can't at least have a positive future without any sense of hope that things will get better. When I tell you hope is powerful, it really is. I can't be any clearer on this. I mean, if you don't dream, you might as well be dead, like George Foreman said. And if you don't have dreams or hope, the future is going to be sadly very, very dark and bleak. I always think of this one movie I saw. It really, really stuck with me. It was called They Live, and it makes me think of like when you put on the glasses and you start seeing the world for what it really is. Nobody is willing to accept the reality for the way things really are, because we live in such a negative world and we're fed false narratives every day, and negative narratives to the point that we don't even know the truth anymore, or it has become so fogged and hazy that you almost can't find it anywhere. It feels like it'll never end. But I think we need to have those glasses on so that we can start making a change. Because you can't really revolutionize, and you can't push forward and create a new society or create a new way of life without realizing that the problem is there. The first step to solving anything, I've believed, is acknowledge there's the problem, and then next, put it into action. Will it be easy? No. Will it be a picnic? No. Will there be times when things aren't going to go right? Yes. Like Les said, you will have many, many, many visits from Murphy. Anyways, one that I really, really liked here, one quote I really liked that sent from one of my best friends who watched the show. She sent me something that said, celebrate your successes and failures. Both required great courage. And honestly, I love this one. The only thing I change about it is these weren't even failures. These were just learning opportunities. Every time I've failed recently in my life, whether it be on an exam, a test, a class, a job, or just simply a bad day, I don't even see it as a failure. It was just a learning opportunity. And that's what failure does to you. It's a good teacher. Eventually you get to the point where you realize you're not truly failing until you've actually quit. And that kind of leads me to Les. And he said, it's the opportunity, just the way he's shaking his hand and having the opportunity to meet him. He him and I talked about him potentially coming on this show soon. Really, really excited. I gave my number and email to him and 2 of his agents, and I've made several connections. Lorenzo Ray Phillips, he lets me call him Ray, but he's Lorenzo Ray Phillips. Great motivational speaker. He gave me his card. I'm definitely looking forward to the opportunity. And another guy I saw, his name is Will, down there. He wasn't a motivational speaker, but he was one of the audience. Absolutely great guy. We talk now almost daily. I mean, you never know what you're going to get yourself into going into these workshops and having these opportunities. You just go out there and take a chance. You never know what will happen. Like, I never thought I'd be speaking to the people I'm speaking to now. I'm glad that I don't have to spend the rest of my life wondering what if, because if not now, if not you, who else do you suggest? I mean, if you're listening to this, Les, or if you're listening to this, Ray, as you've let me call you, really, really nice. And as you, or Will, if you all listen to this, I definitely would love to invite you over on here. During these past 3 months, I've struggled with my own mind. I've struggled with ulcers, abdominal pains, epigastric pains. You got to kind of declare an all-out war that you're going to get out of these ruts. So I had to declare all-out war that I was going to get out of the ruts I've gotten out of. And I've also lost someone very, very important to me during the time I was out of the show. And I had been out of the show for such a while because I was having such terrible illness and sickness, and felt like my whole body was falling apart. And let me say, it's another test to how resilient I've been and how resilient I've had to be to get to where I am now. So just the opportunity to get back up in this studio and be talking to you guys is absolutely everything. The one that I lost was my mother and I's 13-year-old cat. Her name was Estelle, and we named her after Estelle Getty from the Golden Girls. Such a sweet little girl. She was like a little brown tabby. Oh, God. It was definitely hard. Grief is not something you can get over. Grief is a great teacher, and grief will bring up triggers and whatnot. And it's just, thank God I have the people in my life like my mother, and I have stuff like my books, and I have the comedians that I listen to keep me on my feet, and to have someone like Les to speak to was an absolute blessing, or having someone like Les to listen to on YouTube. It always felt like, having another father figure on the radio. It's more like having another teacher just simply teach you about life. Nothing too difficult, nothing impossible. Sometimes, and that'll be life. I couldn't escape my physical pain because I couldn't take pain relievers because of my ulcers. But sometimes that's just life. Sometimes you can't take pain relievers, and sometimes you won't be able to relieve your pain. Sometimes you just gotta push through the pain, whether it be physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, whatnot. And again, you won't always be able to relieve your pain. Sometimes you just gotta push it. We all have to go through unavoidable suffering, and this is what I've had to come to grips with. And I was grateful that in spite of all this, I had such caring professors, and I finally came to the realization of just how great my support group was, especially in this Aspire program here at Roanoke College. If you don't know about it, I definitely encourage you to ask questions. I definitely encourage you to ask someone named Dustin Persinger. Amazing guy, great guy. We've had some good times in this program, but we've also had several workshops that allowed us to develop our skills and, develop money management, develop our own critical thinking, develop how to write our research papers properly, and, source checking, help us kind of become social again and be able to fit into a world that just wasn't built for us. And the other advice I say is you can never have too many cuddly cats. I've been really, really hoping to strike gold recently, hoping that maybe a stray kitty will come across my area. Oh, man, you never Never can have too many cuddly cats, I promise you. And the other thing we have to do is, especially a stigma we have to break, is that it's okay to be sentimental. It's okay to be emotional. Part of why I've read a study recently that said over 65% of men they become depressed because when they opened up to emotional vulnerability, they've been either shamed, silenced, or humiliated for it. And that's how kind of depression begins, with masking those emotions. You get to such a state of mind where you put up walls for so long that those walls almost become permanent, and if it doesn't allow any love to flow through, no feeling to fall through, and you kind of become numb, and you become very, very cynical about life and very, very negative. I promise you, you can break out of it. You can do whatever you have to do to get out of a rut like that. I've been there. I've done that. So the first things you have to do is, again, know that it is okay to be emotional regardless of what society has told you or whatever your friends have told you, whatever your parents have told you. And if your friends have told you it's wrong to be emotional, then their chances are they're probably not your real friends. If you gotta watch the people who are giving you advice like this. You gotta watch who you're surrounding your life. Your network determines your net worth. You have to pay attention. It's like one bad apple spoils the bunch. You sit with a bunch of spoiled apples, you yourself will become a spoiled apple as well. You just gotta pay attention to that. You gotta understand. And it's like, no matter how difficult it is to wake up. You get out of bed. If you need a day to grieve. You lost a pet, grieve. You may not always rise to the highest expectations or the brightest thoughts of what the day has in store for you, but you still wake up anyways. No matter what you do, you keep crawling, you keep going, you keep pushing. I had to constantly do everything I could in these moments of sickness and physical pain to keep being me. And I've mentioned this guy a lot, and I'm going to mention him again. William McRaven. Still, beautiful speech. If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. Just simply start getting out of bed. It's almost all you can do nowadays. Start off making your bed every morning, of course. 2, find someone to help you paddle. You can never make it through this. You're not going to be able to make it through this life alone. You got to die to get out of here. But nobody great and nobody on the top has ever done everything alone. People on the top are obsessive. They don't like to lose. They do everything in their power to become successful, not at the cost of other people, though. And what they also do is they keep constantly developing. They have countless sleepless nights if they had to. All the greats have gone bankrupt. They've been called crazy by the masses, and they've gone crazy by their family. Trust me, there is no struggle without progress, and you can't have a testimony if you've never been tested. Number 4, you have to keep moving forward, knowing that life is not fair. This one, I don't know how I could break this one down any further. Number 5, you will fail, and you will likely fail often. You just have to accept this as part of your life. And honestly, let me tell you something. Whether you fail or pass, do you think you're going to be judged by that when you're dead? Do you think people are going to judge? You think you're going to be judged when you're dead on whether you passed or failed this, or whether you failed the test or you passed that? What you're going to be judged on is whether you were a good person. That's something my mother told me, and I think I could share it here. Number 6, you want to slide down the obstacle head first. Sometimes the fastest and best paths forward sometimes require some courage and unconventional thinking. Don't always remain cautious. Being cautious for too long degrees growth, and you'll miss opportunities. Being cautious to an extent is okay. Yes, there are some things you should legitimately have fear of. No, you should not let it immobilize you. It's okay to acknowledge fear as an emotion, even as a fact, but not as a force to hold you back, as I've read before. So this is how I've had to do it with my projects and my work. I've had to break some conventions and do some unconventional thinking, whether it be unconventional in the production process, or whether it be unconventional in the way I've wrote my script or set up my own narrative. Sometimes the unconventional ways are the best ways. Yes, so maybe the undisciplined life, or, well, not as the insane life, but, I mean, so is, the unconventional thinking, and sometimes the insane life is a good life. Sometimes you gotta get to that point where people say you're insane, and when they say you're insane, you gotta say absolutely, if the shoe fits, wear it. You got to be out of your mind to see the things I see. Number 7, don't back down from the sharks. You're going to face them all the time. They're going to come gearing up on you when you least expect them. They're going to come and bite you in the tail a little bit. So, number 8, step up when times are the toughest. You must be your very best in the toughest of moments, even in the darkest. This is like the ultimate test. Number 9, start singing when you're up to your neck in mud. As I always said to myself, good music never fails. I have only but goodies. I got, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. I've, Michael Jackson. I've got the Statler Brothers. I got the Dwight Yoakam collection. I've had the Bob Newhart comedy tracks. I mean, you good music never fails, let me tell you. But yeah, this is start singing when you're up to your neck in mud is sometimes you have to let loose a little bit when you're in those really, really, really tough times. And one of the ways to ground yourself during those tough times, because again, there's always something everybody's going through these days. There's never been a problem-free life in our society. Sometimes you have to come to that point where sometimes you have to start letting loose a little bit, or sometimes you have to dance and sing your way out of a problem. That's just the way life is sometimes, and maybe that was just the way it was presented as. I really do believe that sometimes we have been meant to sing and dance our way through this world. The world is a stage, like I've heard before. And sometimes we are all just players on that stage. We're all just acting, and sometimes you realize you keep sweating the small stuff, you'll eventually realize everything was the small stuff. Nothing was always as big as it seemed. You realize later on, when you finally overcame it all truly wasn't as bad or as big as you thought it was. So again, start singing when you're up to your neck in mud. Sometimes you have to dance and sing and act your way into life. Sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it. And number 10, never give up. You really never know how close you can be to striking gold. What I found out in life is that most people give up right before they're about to make their breakthrough. And this was a statement I've also heard from the Discipline to Destiny seminar last Sunday in Georgia with Les Brown and all these motivational speakers. Sometimes you just have to get to that point. Anyways, and again, some of those more disciplined habits that people carry, I feel like I should make a mention of this again, because it's been a while, it's been a couple months. And, some things about disciplined people is, people will always win in the long run, even when they lose in the short run. Sometimes you have to delay instant gratification for long-term results or long-term success. Discipline is a marathon, not a sprint. Disciplined people don't go around seeking immediate gratification. That's number one. That's very true. I mean, that is the epitome and the peak and the embodiment of discipline, is waiting for long-term success instead of immediate gratification. You'll find the results are so much better. I'm telling you, when you finally get to that point of success and you have the delayed gratification, I can't describe it to you. I can't describe the opportunities to you. Like, for example, me, I've been given opportunities to host Aspire nights. I've been opportunities to potentially be like a president of the activities board for Aspire. I've had the opportunity to meet Les Brown and shake his hand, simply being patient. I've had the opportunity to talk to speakers I've never even spoken to. I'm literally getting emails from speakers at this program asking me to talk to them. It's just, I can't explain the feeling to you. Look, once you get there, you are there. Trust me. So don't seek immediate gratification, and if you need to use my story this past week as an example, do so. Number 2, you want to put structure over willpower. The more likely you establish some routine over willpower, the more likely or that you won't break that routine. And you have to make sure it's good routine. You have to make sure it's positive habits. And that's the funny thing about when you have a positive habit, you'll be more likely to know that you've got it. But when you fall into negative habits, what you realize is you'll never realize that you've got the habit until after the habit has gotten you. Something I've learned listening to Zig Ziglar's See at the Top. Absolutely recommend it. Beautiful, beautiful work. And if you're trying to find a way to listen to it, go online and go on YouTube and find this audiobook. It's about 2 hours long. Never learned so much from a single audiobook before than I did listening to him. And if not, I'm sure, go to your local library, grab the book, check it out, do whatever you have to do. Number 3, you want to recognize your awareness. You have to understand your impulses without acting on them. Understand that you will be thrusted into temptation, and that temptation leads to that immediate gratification that you want to avoid. So understand that it's okay to understand you have impulses, just don't act on them. Again, like I said before, the first step to acknowledging anything is admitting you have the problem. So understand that your problems are your impulses. Next, what you do is solve the problem. And in this case, simply do not act on them. I can't be any clearer than that. Number 4, you have to protect your focus and energy to whatever you need to safeguard your time, energy, and focus. In this case, you have to detoxify your life, and you have to get your life out of your negative people. Who are you surrounding yourself with, and are your friends going to get you on in detention list or the honor roll? Is what you're doing going to get you promoted or fired? Is what you're doing going to get you passing your classes or flunking through your classes? Is what you're going to do, is it going to get you up on stage living your dream, or is it going to get you in jail, or is it going to put you in the grave? I always think of a story in Live Your Dreams of 2 brothers, and one was the name Big Cub and the other one I believe was Little Man, and both had special gifts for their sports they played in. And Big Cub's idea, he had all the physical characteristics to become successful in the sports they were playing in. But the problem is he was always constantly running around with the wrong crowd, whose ideas of having a good time was jump starting cars and taking them around for joyrides and robbing stores and whatnot. And sadly, he of course, it was safe to say he wound up going to jail and going to prison. But this other kid, his little brother, Little Man, was always running, practicing, and honing his craft. And even when he was laughed at by his big brother and their friends, he paid no mind to them, and now he had made it to the big leagues, and he had finally gone pro in the sport. So the thing with Big Cub was he eventually died in prison. And the lesson that I took from this, the line that really stuck to me in that book, Live Your Dreams, was Big Cub ran with the wrong crowd, and the wrong crowd ran him to death. Sometimes the wrong crowd will literally kill you, even if it's a narcissist. Even a narcissist, hang out with the wrong person, it will drain the life out of you. It will kill you and make you depressed. It'll make you ill. It'll literally make you sick. In some cases, it even cause your hair to fall out. You've gotta watch who you're surrounding yourself with. Your network determines your net worth, and not just in the monetary sense, but in the sense of self-esteem. If you say your network determines your net worth, who you are with can also determine your self-esteem. Do you give in easily? Do you cave under pressure? This and that and the other. So again, protect your focus and protect your energy. Number 5, embrace the discomfort. Discomfort provides growth. Discipline is strengthened through discomfort. You can't have discipline It's that discomfort. You can't say you experience discipline if you haven't experienced discomfort. And next thing you want to do is, again, I think I've said this one before. I don't think I have to say it again, but I'm going to. Delay gratification. Understand your time will come. Understand that harder the battle, the sweeter the victory. Eric Thomas always says you're going to become a victor and not a victim. Number 7, put progress over perfection. You know you aren't perfect and you keep working on yourself. You always try to be a better person than you were yesterday. If you are not better than the person you were 10 years ago, or a year ago, or a month ago, or even yesterday, then believe me when I tell you this and mark these words, you have not grown as a person. We have to understand that we just simply aren't perfect, that things won't always be at an even kill all the time, that we won't always be able to give your 120%. Sometimes things will go real well, sometimes things won't go so well for you. And when you finally come to those grips, you drop the big burden of perfection, and you drop the big burden of, those bags of having a fear of failure. So once you finally drop that, I'm telling you, the climb, it may still be hard, but it's definitely a lot easier than it would have been when you finally let go of those demons. I'm telling you, they really are demons. The demons of self-doubt, the demons of hate, the demons of the fear of failure. I mean, let those go, and I promise you, it may still be hard, but it'll still be a lot easier when you have those burdens off, because you will have the will to keep moving forward those tough times. You will be less likely to give up. Remember, you want to also align your actions with your core beliefs. Align what you do with what matters most. I understand, you gotta come to the understanding that everything you do will bring you one step closer to what you want, even if it's a small step or a big step. Every no is a no closer to your yes. People have become so negative that people will say no 7 times before they say yes even once. And you also, something else I really liked from Eric Thomas, he says, you gotta find your why. I have mine. My why is to educate the public on building resilience and emotional awareness in a world that tries to numb it. In film, mine is creating real stories, breaking conventional narratives and genres to create the messages the world needs to hear before it's too late. Life does not follow the 3-act structure. I'm going to tell you that right now. Life is not always a hero's journey or a heroine's journey. Life is not some film or some musical where you sing all your silly little songs and sing a silly song and all your dreams come true. It unfortunately is not that kind of party, and it's also, let me tell you something, life is also not like where you tell someone your dream and you think everybody's gonna love it and support it, and you have even your best friend saying, wow, that's your dream, let me help you. Unfortunately, it's just not that kind of party out there. So again, find your why, and because if you don't have your why, then what really do you have? Because your why is going to be what's going to carry you forward and help you snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. And make sure your why serves someone beyond you, because what I've noticed is when your why is serving just you, you are going to be less likely to succeed, and you're going to be more likely to give up and cave in and blame other people. If your why is for your world or for your family or for your parents or for your friends, then that's when you finally get yourself into another zone, when you finally refuse to put your bags down and you refuse to keep carrying forward. Again, so find your why and discover your why and stick to that why. You'll want to succeed. If you want to succeed as much as you want to breathe, you'll succeed by that point. That starts when you finally find your why. And again, I also can't make this any clearer. I recommend Zig Ziglar's book, See at the Top, like I've said earlier. And his mantra is, you can have everything in life you want if you would just help enough other people to get what they want. And if you want to get to the top, you must be willing to pay 3 ways. Blood, sweat, tears, no fare, no other fare. And you'd be crazy if you think you're crazy if you think you'll be able to buy your way out of it. Average people sit and, they complain and whine and talk about their problems while the greats and the champions rise and stay optimistic and talk solutions, and even in the seemingly worst circumstances, because if you're not going to have any hope and if you're not going to be able to talk positively in what feels like it's going to be a bleak future, then that future is going to stay bleak. And you got to finally come to the point where the question is, what are you going to do about it? How long are you going to sit there and talk about the problem all the time? And you got to start thinking of the solutions. Then here's like an example. I've noticed a takeover of artificial intelligence in the filmmaking department that's decaying the very infrastructure of what led to film in the first place. Netflix wants to dumb down the films so that you hardly have to pay attention, almost becoming even below the mindless entertainment bar. Don't get me wrong, I like mindless entertainment, but this feels like a new low. And filmmaking was not intended to be dumbed down. It was meant to be paid attention to. David Lynch was right when he said, life is complex and so should your films. And I don't think films are something you just sit down and hang out with the boys and enjoy overnight and think mindlessly too. It's supposed to get you to think about the problems in the world. All films have some sort of societal truth. It's filmmaking is not meant to be dumbed down. It's meant to be paid attention to as well. I don't really even feel like the artificial intelligence is really much of an economic process. It's being used to dumb people down and reduce critical thinking in a time where critical thinking is more than ever. And it gets me into thinking to that point. It's like, is it going to be like a future like WALL-E where idiocracy, where everybody has become so dumbed down because we've let the mass corporations and we've let the entire world do the rest of our thinking for us instead of being able to develop our thinking. We come to that point where we need to take a stand. Film is a creative tool to spark creative thinking, and we're allowing tech and corporations to erode that. If you need to use AI or any machine to do your writing or thinking for you, then you need to start learning how to think and do your own writing. And I'm telling you, when you finally do it, the payoff is amazing. When you finally get to that point of success, again, like we said before, it just can't be explained. It's brilliant. And when you go through the process of your own work, it's original, and it's also providing you with a sense of accomplishment. You don't feel like you've cheated yourself, because that's what you do when you cheat. When you cheat, you're cheating yourself. Trust me. When you cheat, and you use your machine to do your thinking for you, you're cheating. And what puts me so up against this AI trend, which I don't believe has to be the future if you don't have a say in it. We live in this opportunity where, this time of free speech where you have to use that tool to your advantage, and you have to say, no, we don't want this. AI uses so much energy and so much fresh water to make simple commands that it's not even sustainable for the planet. Would you rather do your own critical thinking, your own work, have a machine destroy the planet, taking our finite resources? And trust me when I say our resources are finite. Pain builds resilience. All the true greats did their own critical thinking, and their work paid off. There are no handouts and shortcuts on the road to success. And this is the problem. I've read some studies saying in 2025 AI used up hundreds of millions of gallons of water and caused as much pollution as New York City did in 1 year, which is something really, really shameful. They said if we were to take our span of the world and we cut it down to just 4 years, in about 4 days we have cut down, in that 4 days to 4 years ratio, we have cut down half of our forest. It is just simply not a sustainable way of life. I've always seemed to notice that the better the economy is, the more the planet suffers. I'd rather live in a world where the planet is not suffering and we're not worried about the economy and the standard of living is not a common saying. We are not sitting here, we're given this beautiful world, and instead of enjoying it for what it is, we're worrying over wars and debts and terms like the standard of living and global warming have become the most common terms today. Again, there are no shortcuts, handouts to the road to success. Either you pay for your dream now or you pay double later. If it wasn't given to you, then, why wouldn't you have not been so intense on working as hard as you've been now if you faced your setbacks? And I know many are doubtful based on reasonable basis, but nothing is impossible, and you gotta understand that the messages and the work you're doing is more important forever. Like Les said, you have been chosen out of 1 in 40 million sperms for a moment like this. We were built exactly for a time such as this. We've always been living on the edge. We've always been on the break. And again, more than ever, we were built for a time such as this. Understand that. There are people who are self-made who don't know about who they were discovered by others who weren't related by blood. You don't want to spend your entire life building someone else's dreams without building yours too. All the greats have faced the doubt and resiliency, and just like them, you can't give away your power or your dream away just because a few people or a class or a county or a higher authority or a town or your parents or the industry just doesn't see it for you. Even as long as no one else sees it for you, you must see it for yourself. At least get the dream in development. You don't accept things as they are. The people who refuse to accept things as they are, who refuse to leave life just as it is, those are the people who I notice are really making the differences. You can't get out of life alive. You've got to die to get out. So you might as well keep fighting to the death for what is right, as long as it's not at someone else's expense, in spite of all the rising threats. I know what I want enough that the rising odds don't matter to me, and you have to become a get it done person with a get it done attitude. Sometimes that is commitment, and that commitment will mean going bankrupt, thinking, what are you doing here, sitting in that boring class, thinking, what am I doing here? Sometimes you'll become depressed, sometimes you have to cry, sometimes that commitment means going through any of that suffering, no matter how, even at the time. And sometimes, believe me when I say this, when you're in there and you're in those tough times, it always seems like it's going on forever. But that's just the commitment, and the commitment is just part of the game. It's all a part of the territory. When what you want to do is big enough, your odds will. When your dream is big enough, the odds don't count. If an inanimate peanut could have over 300 uses, then how many could you have? This bright, intelligent character that you have. Imagine how many more possibilities you could have than some brainless, inanimate peanut. You never want to die with your dreams unattempted and your character untested. Like I've heard before in previous seminars, imagine yourself dying and all these people come to all your dreams, lie at your bed, if you're in your hospital bed, and these are the dreams and the spirits that you've left unfulfilled. Only you could have given them life, and now they must die with you. They must die with you in the cemetery. The richest place in the world aren't, I don't believe these are the gold mines, and I don't believe it was the times of the gold rush, or I don't believe the richest places in the world are where the richest people are. I believe the richest places in the world are the cemeteries, like I've heard before, and where all the dreams, the aspirations, and the ideas that could have changed the course of our world for the better, or put us in a much better place than where we are now, are now left unfulfilled. But that doesn't mean I don't have hope. The way I've seen people take a stand against hunger, this will one day become a thing of the past. The way I see people take a stand against disease no longer eradicates us and plagues us as badly as it did before during the famines and the flu pandemics and just all the pandemics and the diseases. And the way I say people take a stand against the environmental destruction, I'm telling you, one day, at least by the end of my lifetime, environmental destruction and climate change will become a thing of the past, the way I see us taking that risk. It just may seem messy now, but all change is messy. And once you get through the mess, you can't have the message without the mess. And you have to be aware of the risk. Yes, you have to be aware. Yes, you have to acknowledge them. Yes, acknowledge these risks as facts, but you have to understand that without the risk or struggle, there is no progress to change yourself or your niche. You can't let these risks immobilize you. They say the person who risks laughing is to risk becoming a clown. The person who risks smiling risks looking weird. The person who risks laughing is the risk also looking like a clown. The person who risks crying is the risk looking sentimental. The person who risks emotional vulnerability risks looking like a fool in front of someone else. The person who risks failure person who risks success risks failure. So, the person who does not risk nothing, does nothing, doesn't learn to love, learns to hate. The person who risks nothing is nothing. There's just no way to do it. So you have to get to the point where you accept any risks and acknowledge them as facts. But don't use them as crutches or excuses to immobilize you. Risks are a story by all greats. Greats as in those, I should say, are successful and don't take advantage and exploit others for their gain. And again, all risks are a story by greats still at this time. You have to go into the game and take the classes, even if you don't agree with all that is being taught. Based off that evidence, you're still taking a chance, taking a risk, and even if you have to take the class to understand what's wrong with it, then that's just what you have to do. You have to take into account that all these greats have faced these issues before. No matter how unique you may think your struggle is, all the struggles are similar in some way, where we have all faced, misinformation, and we've all had to find ways to prove why it's all wrong. And honestly, that's kind of the idea of what I want to get to with this. You just have to work harder. You don't need to blame anyone. You got to understand the sense of urgency in everything that you do. And, if someone doesn't like what you're doing, what you say is, it's okay, I didn't do it for you. If someone says you're too ambitious, what you say is there's a lack of ambition. If someone says what you're doing is too risky, what you say is, it seems like nobody else is taking any risk at all. And I'm saying, so I've kind of said what I said, and I kind of want to end that here. I ask listeners to get in touch or comment or suggest ideas through our Facebook page and WRKE. I encourage people to check out our WRKE Instagram and Facebook pages. I've also encouraged you to check out my social media pages, as I mentioned before, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Anakin Heidrich on Instagram and Facebook, and The Coolest Pet in Town on Instagram and YouTube. And if you have any stories and if you have any thoughts, share them with me. And if you're interested in co-hosting a show with me, definitely let me know, and I will do my best to get there with you. I encourage you to send your stories and make sure that you understand your stories will be on the air eventually, and they will remain on the audio files when finished. Just know that when you share your story, you assume the risk that I will make it public. But anyways, you can reach me by commenting on their stories on my posts online. You can be co-host, but you must fill out the forms, and just reach me and I would give you those forms. I guarantee it will all be told sooner or later. But anyways, I should say this. WRKE is a commercial free refuge for alternative rock and indie music. It is on the air streaming live because of listeners just like you who appreciate the alternative choice we provide. Keep listening to WRKE 100.3 LPFM Salem, streaming live online at WRKE.org and on the TuneIn app. Just search for WRKE. Thank you very much. And goodbye, my friends. This is the Heidrich Motivational Hour.